What's up, y'all? It's just Rhonda. Welcome to my channel. We have made it to the end. Well, we almost to the end of the work week. Some of us, tomorrow is the beginning of my work week, so imagine that. Anyway, y'all, it's coffee talk. Y'all like the video, subscribe to the channel. We get over here every morning at 10:30, and we discuss things that are Black history, Black excellence, current events, and a little bit of celebrity gossip. We sometimes discuss some of the mess that we see over on the timeline. That can be quite entertaining, as a matter of fact. So, if you're new here, welcome. If you're a regular here, welcome back. And we're going to get into the conversation because we don't have, time to be over here yippering and yappering. And when I say we, I mean me. So, yeah, helping others shine won't dim your light. I don't understand why, the impulse, I guess it would be, um to hold somebody back or stand in the way of their light as if somehow you will be dimmed. I think of Portia when I read this. I think of Portia over there, who was supposedly this lady Shamia's best friend. They've been besties since, they've been friends or engaged. Like, they like to, move the timeline around. These people with their timelines get on my way. They've known each other since they were children. Their parents were friends, and something happened along the way. So when this lady Shamia came over here to the housewives, Portia, who was, the self-proclaimed star of the show, I'm supposing a lot of people say she's the star of the show. I don't think there's necessarily stars on ensemble shows, but we're gonna go with the narrative that this is Portia's show. And Shamia can't be over here because this is her thing. And I don't understand that mindset. I don't understand how having your best friend work with you can be, a downfall. But yeah, I think it's an example of somebody who feels like their light is going to be dimmed if they help somebody else shine. And that's a crazy mindset. I shine, you shine, we all shine. And then ain't nobody in the dark. We know what's going on. So if you have the opportunity to lend somebody a helping hand, you know what I'm saying? When you see their light dimming, don't miss out on that opportunity, because that's what it is. It's an opportunity for you, you know what I'm saying, to show yourself in a way that maybe you didn't know you could show up. So yeah, that's where we're gonna start today. um Normally I start with Black excellence, Black history, things of that nature. We're gonna get this political stuff out of the way. Politics is out here causing us anxiety. We're not gonna ignore it, but we for sure are not gonna be overwhelmed with it. So let's just go ahead and get into the and the ticks, and then we'll move on to the next thing. I can't tell you whether it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Remember this guy? Remember this guy from last week?
My aunt, our uncle, that all worked for General Motors, son of an educator. Protecting America, getting back to the fundamentals and the foundation that made us great in the beginning. That's what we're doing this cycle. The contrast is clear. The time is now. If you love America, make noise. If you believe in first responders, make some noise. If you back our military, make some noise. And if you're proud to be a conservative, please sell General Motors.
So that was his big speech. A surprising result out of Michigan is reshaping the 2026 midterm landscape. In the state's 8th congressional district, Republican primary, retired GM engineer Tom Smith defeated Trump's endorsed candidate Amir Hassan, despite spending his campaign weeks before the election day and endorsing another Republican. The upset marks the first ballot box loss for a Trump endorsed congressional candidate this election cycle, and set up a November matchup against Democratic Republican Kristen McDonald Rivet. Political observers say the race could often offer an early test of how much influence endorsements still carry in a competitive district. Um, I'm just glad to see that this fool got left looking like a fool. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about Republican candidates, but this man sat up here with the endorsement of the Donald Cheeto, and it didn't work in his favor. So, yeah, glad to hear that. Sorry about it, dude. He was giving me ick anyway. I don't know where he came from. Here's another endorsement. Dr. Erica Schwartz has been confirmed as the director of the CDC. Her resume includes medical and law degrees, a stint as a deputy surgeon general, and a leadership position at the U.S. Coast Guard. Um, Dr. Erica Schwartz confirmed as new CDC director. The U.S. Senate confirmed Dr. Erica Schwartz as director of the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention on Wednesday in a 51-44 vote. Schwartz becomes the CDC's 22nd. Schwartz becomes the CDC's 22nd director and its first confirmed leader in nearly a year. So this spot been just wide open with, RFK over there making bad decisions. And we see where that is. Everybody on a shitstorm and can't eat nothing because everything's getting recalled. But anyway, she previously served as a deputy surgeon general and held senior leadership position with the U.S. Coast Guard. Her resume also includes medical and law degrees. She took control of the agency during a period of leadership turnover, staffing losses, and debate over federal vaccine policy. During her confirmation process, Schwartz pledged to support scientific standards and strengthen public confidence in the CDC. Um, they're not gonna be able to throw shit at us just because they're black. Let's start there. Just because you're black means, doesn't mean that we just gonna take it for what it is. She's clearly qualified. This lady has spent her, you know, life educating herself. Doctor's degree, lawyer's degree. Um, it's just always very suspicious. One time you read an article that says black women are the highest educated and the most underemployed, and then you have these people over here that you can't trust. I just want to know, is the mindset we need somebody over there to have to have people accountable. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of stupidity over there. So we do need a brain in the house, for God's sake. So there is that. But then there's this other part that's her name is Schwartz. I haven't been able to find her husband. People said, and when I say the people, I mean somebody over in the comments said that the man was scrubbed off the internet. I don't know, like how, Eric Schwartz is not a hard name. I feel like there's a lot of people out there with that name, so we probably wouldn't be able to put the two together. I don't know that it matters, but this lady do not look like her name. Obviously she wasn't a Schwartz when she got here, which says a lot about, her husband. Anyway, let's go ahead and listen to her as she's in the middle of I don't want to call it a debate, but you know, I guess it's just a conference where they're asking. She's being questioned about what it is she's going to bring to the table over here.
Will you have the ability and the firmness to stand up to that political meddling, to say, no, that's wrong and this is right?
Chairman, you have my assurances that I will continue to lead by my integrity. I will never compromise on the science. I will always have the public's health in mind. I have spent over 25 years making sure that my
That's not quite the direct answer I'm hoping for. I'm just saying that. And I know you've been through a murder board. One more time. I believe you're a woman of integrity. I accept that. But will you have the ability to say no to junk science and to say yes to that which has been firmly established and to stick up for what is actually right and true as opposed to that which is superstition and prejudice?
Chairman, I've always stood up for what is right and what is true, and I believe that I will continue to do that. You have my assurances that I will do that. I will never betray the science, ever. I will go where the science leads us. I will not have predetermined answers to conclusions. I will make sure that the CDC is focused on scientific rigor, that the CDC is focused on radical transparency, as we discussed in your office, and that the CDC, which is the most important thing to regain public trust, is that we lead with humility. There is an arrogance
excuse me, because I'm almost out of time. Radical transparency includes if somebody puts people beneath you or above you or around you.
I do not know. Anyway, there was another young lady that, I think expressed a lot of our sentiment when it comes to this appointment. Like with everything that's going on, I feel like most of us feel like somebody needs to be in charge over there because it seems like the people are running muck over there in the palace or the White House, whichever you want to call it. Anyway, let's listen to this lady's take.
One asking, what is the catch? Yesterday, Trump nominated Dr. Erica Schwartz to lead and be the director of the CDC. While we know this is a great accomplishment because she is a qualified Black woman, the question is, what is the catch? What will she be blamed for? There has not been anyone in that role at the CDC since August of 2025. We've seen that diseases have been on the uptick, and a lot of these diseases are things that we have vaccinations for, but people chose not to get vaccinations. So here we are. We know that RFK is very anti-vax. He says some very troubling things, but people in the MAGA cult really wanted to say, we don't want to vaccinate our kids. We don't want the government telling us what we have to do. Yet here we are. So now, since it's out of control, it seems like the administration, that thing, wants to bring someone in to clean it up. So we all know that Black women are deemed to be the mammy that is someone that is coming in to clean up the nasty work, things that could have been prevented. But I feel that Dr. Erica Schwartz is going to be swooped into that position, and I don't know at what cost. While I am confident that she can do an amazing job, at what point will she be blamed for some type of mess? Will she be blamed for the diseases being out of control, even though we know that these things are out of control prior to her joining? As a intelligent Black woman, I'm sure she has weighed the pros and the cons of all of this, especially since she's been asked, and she's probably talked with her family and she understands what could come her way. But I also think that it's going to be a lot of pushback from the MAGA cult that is still remaining and loyalists. They're going to say she's a DEI hire. DEI has been a word that has been bastardized by this administration. And this is a Black woman with multiple degrees and immense qualifications. She'll still be considered a DEI hire. Dr. Schwartz, we are excited for you and we know that you can do great things, but we are also praying for you because we know that your name will be run through the mud with this administration. You can't trust anything about it. It just makes me wonder, how did we get here? And what made Trump go over RFK's head to nominate someone? How will that working relationship be? Very interesting to see how this plays out after she's confirmed. We'll come back to this one. Bye. So I can't be the only one
I think it's
asking.
interesting that, we still like speak as if this man is, good morning, Lotus Egyptian Flower. It's interesting that we speak as if this man who is like, on one hand, they're like, he's lost it, he's got dementia, but he over here making decisions. So I'm not even sure he was the one that made the decision. This title says, is this a ploy for the midterms or is it the realization that we are in health crisis? I have my opinions. Let me know yours. I feel like we're stuck. That's why we feel the way we do, or at least I do, about this nomination. I'm glad there's somebody besides RFK over there making decisions. You know, um, First comment: her husband has been scrubbed from the internet. It's definitely giving a scheme set up by Todd. Boy, Todd will never beat those allegations, child. She's already skirting around questions. I don't know that she was skirting around questions. Sometimes I feel like, well, not sometimes, but usually politicians have to come up with an answer that's going to, appease the opposition and without pissing off, whoever's on their side. She's definitely one of them. Um, yeah. So, I mean, congratulations. Hopefully, this lady's appointment will at least put us in a position where, we're not in danger of, shit storms and whatever else comes along with the foolishness that's been happening with the food. Um, On to more election discussion. This man was over here talking. I generally try to avoid, hearing what he has to say, but there he sits next to Peter Thiel, his financier. This is a scary photo. That man looks scary in general. Anyway, this is what he had to say. Oh, what happened? Oh, my bad. Let me stop sharing. Ooh, your girl. Gotta get it together this morning. This is always how Thursdays feel. I feel like Thursdays are one of those days where good morning to go to Africa. Um, Thursdays are those days where I have, so much on my mind, like I'm in the middle of what I need to do and what's coming. Anyway, it's not about me. We're gonna go ahead and listen to this clown that's sitting next to the other clown down to the White House.
Are working with us. We don't want the next administration, whoever, God forbid, you're going to have President El Sayed in 3 years. We don't want him to undo all the incredible work that we've been doing when we've been taking out the fraudsters and saving the American people money and are working with us. We don't want the next administration, whoever, God forbid, you're going to have President El Sayed in 3 years. We don't want him to undo all the incredible work that we've been doing.
Is that a premonition? Did he just have a moment where he predicted that El Sayed would be the next president? Is that what he just did? With 3 years? Not 3 years, 2 years. Don't try to add an extra year onto whatever the hell it is y'all got planned over there. We don't want 3 more years. We halfway through, we only got a year and a half. Don't quit playing. Anyway, El Sayed has them worried. Why is that? It says, Dr. Abdul El Sayed wins Michigan's Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate. El Sayed, I like to say his whole name. Abdul El Sayed has won Michigan's Democratic primary for U.S. Senate, becoming the first Muslim to secure a major party's nomination for the United States Senate. The physician and public health leader defeated Congresswoman Haley Stevens in one of the country's most closely watched primary races, overcoming millions of dollars in outside spending from pro-Israel groups opposing his campaign. They was throwing money at the lady and it didn't work. El Sayed ran on a progressive platform centered on Medicare for all, getting corporate money out of politics, and ending unconditional U.S. military support for Israel. He will now advance to the November general elections, where he could become the first Muslim ever elected to the U.S. Senate. A historic victory for Muslim political representation in America. Well, he's a doctor, so he knows all about Medicaid. This is, he ain't bad to look at. I'll just say that too. Not that that has anything to do with anything, but we've been looking at, ich and and we can have somebody smart and doing things for the people. They hate that word socialism, don't they? Why do they hate that so much? And now that these people realize they've been bamboozled, the Mamdani effect is a problem for them, like they are for us. Like I'm here for the Mamdani effect. Like the man has only done, what he said he was going to do since he got there. So hopefully it is the Mamdani effect and we keep going. But JD Vance spoke out of his mouth like, well, when this guy gets over here in 3 years, oh, is that what you think is going to happen? Okay. Okay, I'm not mad. We did extremely well with Barack Hussein Obama. We can probably do well with El Sayed. Yes, we did. They don't even like the way that sounds. Barack Hussein Obama. They still talking about him. And then here comes El Sayed. And like I said, not bad to look at. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to be superficial and everything, but, it is what it is. We got some, big head, block-headed, orange Cheeto ass fat man that's shitting all over everything. We would appreciate just, a little more decorum. You're extremely impressed with him? It's a Michigan thing, child. They got rid of one Hussein, of the fake one, and they got an El Sayed. So yeah, let's keep the energy going and make sure your paperwork is intact because they act funny down to the polls. That's the plan. A black-owned Ruka Hair is set to become Sephora's first braiding hair brand. Its collagen protein fiber replaced synthetic hair containing cancer-linked chemicals. This is for the culture. So, founded by Tendai Moyo and Ugo, obviously African, um, Ugo Agbai. I don't do good with how they translate or switch over their I should have had the see exactly the pronunciation. Um anyway, it's set to become Sephora's first ever braiding hair brand, making a major milestone for black women owned beauty. This is awesome. The community the community. The company developed collagen protein fiber branding hair is an alternative to traditional synthetic options amid growing concerns over potentially harmful chemicals detected in some products. Roku will launch nationwide in Sephora US online on August 4th. So it happened yesterday. Y'all hair braiders out there, get out here, get this tested so we can, know if it's something we want to purchase. Now, they do a lot of things. They put a lot of chemicals in hair products, that are designed for us that are cancer causing. So the fact that, I don't care what store it's in, the fact that you can find hair that have protein fibers rather than synthetic fibers, I think that's a huge thing. Um, it says the products will be entered into 10 physical stores. Founded in France and owned by luxury giant LVMH, Sephora is one of the world's largest prestige beauty retailers with more than 3,000 stores across 35 markets. Ruka's arrival placed a black-owned textured hair brand on one of the beauty's biggest global platforms, opening the door to greater visibility, choice, and innovation for Black customers. I mean, 10 stores out of 3,000. So I want to know, where they're going to have these stores at. Obviously, they'll have them in highly populated, cities, Black cities. Hopefully, that's the plan if they want to make money. But, it's that first comment, but why Sephora? And I felt that because Sephora is MAGA, and that is a problem. But if we're going into Sephora to, purchase this product, it will only make, the opportunity for them to be sold in other places. So yeah, boost some Sephora, but start there and hopefully they can get into Ulta or other like smaller beauty brands, retailers. Good morning, High Vibe. Watch Mamdani though. We have Gaza issue here. Unfortunately, Lotus Egyptian flower is, for me, even though I love what he's doing, for me, a politician is a politician. And I feel like there's, for as much good that they all do, they all over here making decisions that's not going to be good for somebody. So I just don't fully trust any politician. All you can do is be grateful, pay attention to the things they are doing. And yeah, Sephora's MAGA too. And like I said, hopefully this, if this, first and foremost, it's a product that's not cancer causing. So that's a big reason to do it. I'm not a braider, but the braiders will get out here and say whether this product is good or not good. You know what I'm saying? For the industry. And the next step is that they purchase from there so these ladies will have an opportunity in other places. So yeah, it's so hard to find corporations though that are not leaning red, and I feel like leaning blue sometimes don't really matter. It's just about how they're gonna spend their dollars, put their dollars back into the community. So if they have the right deal, maybe they can even have Sephora donate money to other places as part of their contract. Will they be in Black beauty supply stores as well? That's one of the questions. First step, hopefully, you know what I'm saying? Um, it's hard to get those distribution deals at smaller businesses. So, like I said, maybe from Sephora to Ulta, and then we see that the more they grow, the more places, the more accessibility we will have. Does anyone know where the hair is made? Child, you're gonna have to go over there and do your own research, child. Um, I'm talking to the people in the comments. They can't hear me. Um, let's see. This young lady, I love her so much. Marseille's Way Foundation is teaming up with FICO and Seeds of Fortune Inc. to launch the FICO Financial Empowerment Fellowship, an initiative offering college students scholarship opportunities, financial literacy, education, and leadership development to help them build stronger financial futures. She's pretty amazing. This is what I'm talking about. Like, for the back to the ladies, that got the deal with Sephora, then monies from their, profit, or however they make the deal, monies can be donated to foundations like this. So, we have to find a way when dealing with corporations who are probably more than likely going to be MAGA than not. A lot of them try to stay out of it, and for the ones that try to stay out of it, sometimes they're still Magalini. We got to figure out a way to funnel the money back into the community. So, if they're not going to do it, the corporation isn't going to do it, then maybe you can figure out a way to write that into your contract so you can do it, indirectly. Ciao. We got to be clever out here. I love to hear this. So, climate scientists fired by Trump just launched a new website and republished all the information. Heck yeah. So, you're going to have to go over here if you want to know what's going on, with the environment. Former NOAA employees terminated by Trump's administration have launched Climate US, an independent crowd-funded platform restoring over 15 years of climate data and the fifth national climate assessment following the closure of climate.gov. Supported by over 80 volunteer researchers, this effort ensures public access to vital environmental records and educational tools, to reporting from NPR and the 19th News. I think this is great news. We must say 3 women scientists did that. Oh, that's even better. That's first comment. That doesn't surprise me. Um, for those interested, since you didn't give their info, they're at Climate US. They did give their info. They did say that. It says it like right there. Anyway. I think this is a good thing. I think, again, we're going to have to find alternative means of information. These scientists got out here and made it happen. So you can get information from another source, because based on the sources that we have, can't be trusted. And we're looking, all I see is weird clouds and orbs, and everybody wants to say it's aliens. I don't know what it is, but it seems like somebody might be fooling around with the environment. And these things that's happening to the earth is a direct, result of what's happening with floods and all of this stuff that's going on. So, yeah, climate.us if you are interested. I feel like y'all are an audience of people who definitely stay on top of these things. So, real quick, if you haven't checked out that website, you can go ahead and do that. And make sure the information that the folks over there at the administration try to hide is still have access to. This is some bullshit. A Chicago anti-violence volunteer who says he was trying to surrender a pow pow to the police is facing felony charges that can send him to prison for decades. drawing criticism from the community leaders who argue the case could discourage others from taking firearms off the streets. Oh no, turning them into the police, is that a good idea? Did I say that out loud? I'm just saying. I don't know. Nakia Smith, 51, is a volunteer with the Chicago Cred, a nonprofit focused on reducing pow pow violence. Smith says he found a little hand one while cleaning out a property in 2023 and decided to bring it to the Chicago Police Department's 5th District Station to surrender it officers instead officers arrested him after discovering the loaded firearm in his coat pocket. I feel like there's more to this story. Because Smith has prior felony convictions, prosecutors charged him with several pow pow offenses, including being an armed habitual criminal. I feel like this man is smart enough to know that he shouldn't have done that, and maybe he should have called them and said, "Hey, I'm cleaning this place, and this is what's here, and I have not put my hands on it at all." If convicted on most If convicted on the most serious charge, he could face between 6 and 30 years in prison. Smith maintains he believed he could turn the pow pow in without being arrested and says his only goal was to remove the weapon from the streets. Why was it in your pocket? I don't know. I got more questions. Prosecutors argue Smith illegally possessed the firearm regardless of his stated intentions. His defense attorney contends officers lacked probable cause before searching him, while supporters say the prosecution sends the wrong message to people who want to surrender pow pow safely. Former U.S. Education Secretary Arne Duncan, who co-founded Chicago Cred, called the case a travesty and warned it could undermine efforts to encourage pow pow turn-ins. The case has sparked debate over how law enforcement should handle people with criminal records who attempt to surrender firearms and whether existing pow pow turn-in policies are clear enough to avoid situations like Smith. His criminal case remains pending. I don't know. What do y'all think? I think he should have just called. Why would you put your hands on it when you know you can't trust these people? The entire country should be extremely happy about that, especially the red states. They are the ones you usually have the worst storms that can benefit from their work. Oh, you talking about the weather app? I mean the environmental app or website. I know I'm happy about it. Um, he turned in the pow pow, but then had another one in his pocket. No, I guess the one he went to turn in was in his pocket. That's what I'm saying. It sounds strange. I feel like, you have a history of crimes that involved firearms. You should probably just don't touch it. I'm trying to go back and see exactly what it says. It says Nakia Smith, 51, is a volunteer with Chicago Cred, a nonprofit focused on reducing pow pow violence. Smith said he found a hand one while cleaning out a property in 2023 and decided to bring it to the Chicago Police Department's 5th District Station to surrender it. Instead, officers arrested him after discovering the loaded firearm in his coat pocket. So I don't know what took place between him walking in there and them discovering the pow pow in his pocket. So on one hand, I feel like, do y'all really think he walked up in there with the firearm and had intentions to do what? I don't know. On the other hand, I think as a person who has gone to jail based on, having a firearm, he should probably just have been like, "Hey, this is where I'm at. There's a a pow in here. I'm not touching it because I can't, but I'm letting you know it's here. So that's probably how he should have handled it. I personally would have felt uncomfortable going in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, even as a person without a felony, who, even as a person, like, I don't know what had happened, who, with this firearm. I don't know if there's anything attached to it that's going to get me in trouble. So I'm not going to touch it. Am I going to bring it down there? Hell no. So yeah, just make that call. Call the popo. Call the popo ho. I don't know. Hopefully, hopefully that he just gets a pat on the hand and continue doing the work that he's been doing. This comment says sometimes doing the right thing isn't always the right thing to do. I learned in life not to do extra stuff because it always ends up a problem. He should have known as a black man the system isn't meant to help us. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. Like I said, I have questions. I want to know, what prompted them to search him if he had this in his pocket. Yeah, he didn't think that through. He didn't. And like with y'all, so if y'all found a firearm somewhere, would you turn it in to the police or would you just call the police? Because I'm not about to touch it. Like I said, I don't know what history is attached to that thing, and I would prefer not touching it. But I would probably make the phone call and say, hey, I'm at such and such. I'm, cleaning this property, and there's a firearm in here that, I don't know. I'm not comfortable. I'm not touching it. Y'all come do it. I feel like, and like I said, I ain't got no felonies, so I still wouldn't feel comfortable touching it. He should have known better, and maybe this is a hard lesson learned. Black licensed therapist sues Nordstrom's after Atlanta employees allegedly forced her into a private room to search her bag and found nothing. She says she walked into Nordstrom's as a customer but was treated like a suspect. They don't be knowing who's who. Dr. Naomi Black, a therapist in Atlanta, alleges store employees stopped her and took her bag and escorted her into a private room to search it after accusing her of shoplifting. According to the lawsuit, they found nothing stolen, but she says the experience left lasting emotional harm and she's now taken the retailer to court, as she should. As she should. For many Black women, stories like this hit close to home. Shopping should never come with fear, humiliation, or having to prove you belong. This is just
my will. That feeling of hopelessness and helplessness. I was being held against my will. That feeling of hopelessness and helplessness.
This lady is a whole doctor. They stay profiling people that come in their stores, and I feel like every time this happens, they should sue. If this happens, you should absolutely sue. You should not go into somebody's establishment and then be yacked up into a private room and they rummaging through your things. She should sue. We should make them uncomfortable with this. When I used to work in retail, the message was always, if somebody is stealing something, let it go. We got security for that. As a sales associate, it's not your job to try to apprehend anybody that's committing a theft. That was the message that was sent to me as an employee. So why in the world I would take it upon myself to hold somebody up in a private room and go through their bag as what? You said it's disgusting. Oh, you talking about the pow pow situation. You said it's disgusting that the pow pow laws are extremely unfair and inconsistent throughout the country. Some states have open carry laws and their residents get away with pow powing folks, especially blacks. Yeah, I have a feeling this man, if he's not black, he's brown. I don't think this is a non-melanated person. You said she's about to get paid. What were their suspicions? I almost can, in my head, visualize the lady having a designer bag in the first place. You know what I'm saying? I feel like she shops at Nordstrom. She walked in there. She probably has some type of designer bag that she's carrying. But instead of looking at her as somebody who can afford to shop here, they would prefer looking at her as someone who doesn't belong here. This is Atlanta. Come on. They're used to wealthy people. There's a high amount of wealthy people in Atlanta that shop at Nordstrom. So, what the hell? And then the other one, Zara has had a habit of doing this lately where these employees are running, chasing people down in the mall. Can you imagine you're just shopping and somebody run you down in the mall and try to bring you back to their store? And yeah, I think every time this happens, there should be a lawsuit. These people gonna have to learn, that you can't just be profiling people. You done profiled Dr. Naomi. Are you for real? And that doesn't mean she can't steal, you know what I'm saying? But, clearly they found nothing. Y'all found nothing. Y'all just snatching people because they don't look like what you think they should look like in order to be in Nordstrom's. Give me a break. Half of them probably can't afford to shop at Nordstrom's. You say it doesn't matter what her profession is, a garbage worker has, or no one else should be racially profiled. I agree. I agree. I think the assumption is that they can't afford it. That's why preface the fact that she's a doctor. The assumption is that she don't belong here and she can't afford it. And if you're a garbage worker, you're probably making a decent check, so you can probably afford it too. It's just Nordstrom's, for God's sakes. And yeah, they need to stop. They need to stop. Meanwhile, Miss Jennifer, the trad wife who doesn't work and is popping, Xanax and things, is over there stuffing her bag full of stuff because she needs some adventure in her life. But y'all let her go and go. Ciao. Anyway, are you guys familiar with the fleur de lis and what it actually means as we down to the football season cheering on the New Orleans Saints? Did you know that before it became the logo of the New Orleans Saints, the fleur de lis was used to brand runaway enslaved people as punishment upon capture? Whew, I could never look at that thing the same way. Um, I feel like I've heard it before, but did you know that before it became the logo of the New Orleans Saints, the fleur de lis was used to brand runaway enslaved people as punishment upon capture? Um, to keep this BHU alive, please consider donating. Oh, that's something else. So, yeah, the fleur de lis is a symbol deeply rooted in Louisiana's history. It appears in architecture on the state flag and on helmets of an NFL team, the New Orleans Saints. While today the symbol represents Louisiana, it was once used as a brutal mark of punishment for runaway enslaved people. It's time for the Saints to change their these people, the way they fleur de lis. In 2015, in the 2015 interview with USA Today, historian Dr. Abramia Sek explained that the fleur de lis was used to brand runaway enslaved people upon capture. The practice began in 1724 when Louisiana enacted the Code Noir, Black Code, as a set of laws governing the treatment of enslaved people. Code Noir, those words are French and mean black code, Sek said. Originally adopted from other French colonies, the Code Noir was implemented in Louisiana in 1724 to regulate the enslaved population. Sek noted that among its harsh punishments, the law mandated branding enslaved people with fleur de lis if they attempted to escape. If a person ran away, he would be taken before a court and sentenced to be branded on one shoulder with the fleur de lis, and then they would crop his ears. Oh, Sek explained. If an enslaved person attempted to escape a second time, Sek said, they would be branded again, this time with their hamstrings cut as well. Oh my God. I hate hearing stories about slavery. Sometimes it's just like we don't really think about like the reality of what was really going on. Um, yep, I learned that logo meaning. It's also another reason why it's difficult to watch the NFL. I am surprised that the Saints, and I'm not team loyal, I'm team player loyal. So I'll go wherever the players are that I like. But, at one point, one of my boys was over there, at playing for the Saints. And you said, yes, I'm familiar with the history. I'm going into an argument with the football nut about the symbol. It is what it is. Like, I don't know. Like, it's wild to me that they're that attached to that symbol. New Orleans can be a whole lot of things. Like, um, symbols have been changed before. They won't do it now because, but say what it means. Say what it means. Good morning, Jaguar. Let's get our facts correct. The Fleur-de-Lis. Okay. Let us know. Educate us. The fleur de lis was a symbol of royalty from France. It was a seal of the kings going all the way back to the Middle Ages. The reason it's used in Louisiana. I think two things can be true. And if it was used, to mark enslaved people, you know, you said it's because Louisiana has French roots. Most runaway slaves are branded with a R on their cheek. I think both things can be true. Um, Slave owner appropriated the symbol the same way Hitler appropriated the swastika for his own. It's actually a Hindu symbol. Yeah, but I mean, in the history of the United States, if people were receiving that as a brand, like it definitely changes the meaning for me. It definitely makes it harder to be celebrated. Just like the swastika, whatever its original meaning was for, is always going to be associated with Hitler and all the horrible things that he did. So, yeah, I mean. It's funny how things be right in our face and we don't know. I did not know. Um, I didn't know this either.
Of stabbing needles and dolls to hurt people doesn't come from Africa, Haiti, or New Orleans. Comes from England. Witches in England use a small doll about the size of this cucumber known as a puppet. And they would take these wax dolls and take the hair of the people that hurt them, put them in these wax dolls, and take these long-ass needles and start stabbing these dolls with these needles. But not to hurt that person. Let me defend my pagan witches, because even they are getting a bad name right now. They're not evil. The only reason we believe that witchcraft is evil is because of Christian colonization. How did it end up being a voodoo doll? So as people of color, back then it's illegal for us to go to the hospitals, to marketplaces, but the most important thing, it's illegal for us to read or write. But I'm the voodoo priest. You come over to me, little cousin, you say, Roby, I got a headache and this headache will not go away. Okay, I'm going to dab a little lavender oil right there under your nose. I'm going to start making a doll that looks I'll do it. I'll make a doll that looks exactly like you to the best of my ability. Once we're done, I'll take a needle and put it in the head of the doll. I'm going to take that doll and put it up there on the shelf. Then you can go home. So the next week when you come back to see me, you can be like, Roby, that's my doll up there. That's the doll we made together last week. And I take that doll off the shelf and I see there's a needle that I placed in there in the head of the doll. So I'm going to ask you, the last time you came to see me, I see I worked on your head. Is your head feeling better? If you say your headaches are gone, I'm going to remove that needle out the head of that doll because the chamomile stuff worked. But if you say no, I'm going to leave the needle in the head of the doll because what I did didn't work. The voodoo doll is a record-keeping device. It's a medical chart. It's illegal for black people to read or write.
Whoa.
That's it.
That blows my mind.
So let's talk about the voodoo doll. The idea of stabbing needles and dolls to hurt people.
I like that. I like that explanation better. It makes sense. It definitely makes sense. It definitely, and it's funny because again, the idea of hoodoo dolls and black people associated with it is another way to um, demonize our culture. Which he said, that came from England, but I think that's Louisiana. Louisiana culture, you said we are so genius. Even when, they try to take it away. You know what I'm saying? I look at these kids today and how they're so used to access. I had my daughter tell me once, um, well, her generation is smarter because they have the internet. And I'm like, girl, that does not make you smarter. That just makes you have access to information. You still got to verify whether or not the information is accurate or not. So it makes it more convenient. But now I feel like that works against them because they don't know how to go, I have taken, used to take my kids to the library. They grown now, but we used to go to the library. They had library cards just so like how to do things without access. When the electricity go out or the cable flubs up, then everybody's sitting around looking at each other like, oh my god, not bless her heart, yeah, bless her heart, child. They sitting around oh my God, where's the Wi-Fi? We can't what and I never like when the electricity or if the cable, it's hard with the electricity, which that's not a thing, but the cable sometimes will, you be fighting with the people. And I don't have no problems figuring out what to do until the Wi-Fi gets its situation together. When somebody run into the, what do they call it? You hear the big boom and then all of a sudden you don't have no cable. Uh you said I've never heard about that either. I thought it was a popular in some African and Caribbean cultures to go to Africa. I feel like there's probably, just like he said, originally came from Europe. I think sometimes practices happen and they get translated different in different places. African and Caribbean culture. I would be interested to hear, you know what I'm saying, the background over there. You got different things for different reasons. Um, Colonization is still affecting us, as the proverb goes. Until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. We weren't allowed to read nor write. I love that. Let me say that again. Um, until the lion learns to write, every story will glorify the hunter. That never really, as a kid, I never really felt that. I've never really understand or glorified the hunter. When I was little and my mother took me to the circus, I hated the circus. I always hated the circus. I'm not afraid of clowns, but I just always felt like the animals didn't want to be there. They didn't. I don't need, like, if I go to Disney Animal Kingdom, the animals are out in an environment that mimics their natural habitat. So they're wandering around and not in the cage or, being required to turn around and spin around and do that silly stuff that they do in that whip. And I never liked it. That's why one of them, Siegfried and Roy, almost got his head ate off, talking about he loves the lion. Um, but I've never really identified or glorified the hunter. White people telling their stories from their point of view. Yeah, because, yeah. And we're trying to read about, and we're trying to read our history through their lens. As Yoda, as Yoda told Luke, you must unlearn what you've learned. Um, you must unlearn what you have learned. They have whitewashed so much stuff. They have it, but I do feel like a lot of times, it's just natural. There's a natural thing inside of you to reject some of the things, like if it just doesn't sound right. On the other hand, as I get older and I'm, baffled by things that I've learned, like when you're in school and you just take for granted what they're telling you is the truth. My kids didn't grow up that way. Thank God we have conversations. I think that's a lot of times one of the benefits of homeschooling, like, because you're going through and learning it at the same time, as they are. So yeah, you can't, I tell my kids, question everything. Isn't that profound? I love that. I love that. Um, and we have to be aware of it. And I think it's so important, like, to be sharing with your children and your grandchildren, because if you don't know, they probably don't either. Ancestral memory is very real. It feels some of the things I reject instinctively are coming from ancestral memory. I agree. Some stuff just don't sound right to me, and so I don't rock with it. Um, Thank you for sharing, Jaguar. I learned it from attending a class with Dr. Greg Carr. I feel so blessed. You guys are so smart. I always feel like so much like more informed when I get done over here talking with you guys. I appreciate that. So yeah, let's go on to, what else is on the docket, child? Oh, data centers. Data centers are a big problem. And I think, the people are fighting back. Zuckerberg, we got our eye on you. So this is what's going on with the data centers.
Energy that Georgia Power is literally evicting people in their homes around the surrounding areas just to get enough energy for this. Coweta County Commission just voted 3-2 to kick her out of her childhood home. Check it out.
Guys, my name's Ansley. I live in Coweta County, Georgia. I wanted to come out here and show you guys firsthand what is happening to our county. So as you can see behind me, we have these power lines. Georgia Power is going to expand these lines to support power to the data center. What they're doing to homeowners is they're taking their homes. This is my childhood home behind me. It is being taken by force by Georgia Power. Homeowners in this county do not have a choice. It is called eminent domain, and they will take it.
This data center alone to operate would require its own nuclear reactor. These data centers are toxic for all forms of life.
Kids close to these data centers are starting to have heartburn. Elderly folks are having higher rates of early onset dementia. Chickens lay 50% less eggs. We are seeing calves, cows, goats, and sheep and pigs lose 30% of their body weight.
Keep in mind, they're building this right next to a school and a daycare.
Proposed development is just 1,200 feet from Arco Sargent Elementary School and only 950 feet from a daycare.
It's time we, the people, give the eviction notice to anyone who supports this, whether it be local government, state government, federal government, whatever. We're kicking them out. Let's go.
Have nothing to do with the food.
First comment, since when does eminent domain apply to private corporations? We are not freaking out enough. Next comment, we are underreacting. I wouldn't be surprised if people started burning down these data centers, because the next step is there has to be some fight back at some point. You said the president of Fisk University is not fight back? What you mean? The president of Fisk University is not fight back. Is not fighting back. This is terrible. This is terrible. These data centers are coming up everywhere. And at the end of the day, there's absolutely no reason to have this much data on every freaking citizen. Like the food, the grocery store, the price tags, everything, like the flocking cameras. This just doesn't. Why do we need this? I do a regular life. I feel like most people do. You go to work, you come home. You go to the grocery store, you come home. You might do something for some sort of entertainment every now and then, but for the most part, you're doing the same thing all the time. So I'm not understanding like what is supposed to happen with all this. And then you're, the people like around, like losing your home. And I guess, child, the alternative is living next to a data center, which clearly you don't want to do that either. It's scary. It's scary every day. It just gets more and more stressful. And it seems like it's happening really fast. Here's more on that.
Like more people need to know, data centers don't actually need water. They need cooling systems. And they're using water because it's the cheapest way to do it. Yeah, data centers, they generate like a shitload of heat. And if the heat's not removed somehow, the servers will overheat and it all stops working. So when people are hearing like AI is consuming millions of gallons of water, we're all just assuming it's like this unavoidable part of the technology, but that's actually not true. And it almost is like worse. They don't need water. They're just doing this for no fucking reason because it's the cheapest option. They need cooling. There are alternatives, and I've wrote a few of them down. There's immersion cooling systems. They can literally submerge servers in a specifically designed synthetic fluid that absorbs heat. There's dielectric coolants that can circulate through equipment without conducting electricity. There's closed loop cooling systems that recycle coolant instead of constantly consuming fresh water. Dry cooling systems that use the air instead of evaporation. I don't know. I could pay people to blow on them to cool them off before wasting our water. Another thing, companies can even build data centers in colder climates to reduce cooling demands in the first place. The technology exists, is my point. The issue is that many of those alternatives that I just explained to you are more expensive. And that's the part that I think is interesting. Yeah, it's interesting they're wasting all the water. What's more interesting is they don't have to waste the water. Ordinary people, we're always told, like, conserve our water, take shorter showers, and water your lawn less, follow drought restrictions, be mindful of your water consumption. Meanwhile, some of the wealthiest corporations on earth are consuming enormous amounts of water because it's the cheapest way to cool their infrastructure. There's a difference between something that's necessary and something being the cheapest option available. When a human uses water, it's because they will die without it. When a data center uses water, it's because somebody in a boardroom ran the numbers and decided it was the most cost-effective cooling method. Who cares about the drinking water? The data centers. And I think that's a conversation that's worth having. Because if water is essential for human life, maybe human beings should have priority access to water before the latest AI model does. Just a thought. So something.
First comment, Jeff Bezos said water for data centers should be prioritized over humans. I do remember him saying that. China is putting data centers underwater, and it's in the coolest regions, the way they use portable water for cooling machinery. In addition, they're prioritizing green energy. I did see that. That's freaking scary, and it's so annoying. And this is why we need to change up the system. This is why El Said might be somebody that, makes them so uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, the money, like, they can spend the money to do things the right way. Cause like we enjoy AI. I mean, as a means to, we all use it. It does make things more convenient. So, yeah, I'm not understanding. Hey, El Cid, I'm not understanding. I guess I do understand. But if you're still going to be a millionaire or billionaire afterwards, this is like corporate greed is the devil. Like, you know what I'm saying? You go to church and you hear about the good versus evil. Hell, corporate greed is the evil, and it's taking over the planet. Let's see. You said fighting back. The president gave an interview stating that data centers will be built not on the campus. Oh, hell no. That's wild. Get them kids away from the data center. Like, that's when you pull back. Take your scholarship money somewhere else. Thank you, El Cid. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. She ran on through. She has something else to do. Who knows? Because it's Thursday and, her plate is probably full. The data centers are covers for the underground bunkers. As the lady in that video says, they don't need water. They can use the other options for cooling. Also, China has shown us they can power. We did a story on that Jaguar where China was, putting their data centers underwater. And yeah, underground bunkers. I missed that show with Jesse Ventura, and and he would, have all these conspiracy theories. But I feel like definitely underground bunkers are a thing for the wealthy because they go over to other places, pissing people off. And I also feel like, so usually down here, like when you have heavy rains and then that rain just sits on top of the dry sand, depending on what the earth is made up of, where you live, but it's very dry. And then that water, then we get heavy rains and that water is heavy and it starts collapsing the earth. Also, when you have minefields and things of that nature, it leads into sinkholes. So I don't know like how these underground bunkers are constructed, but I feel like it ain't gonna go like how they think that shit will go crumbling around right behind around them because they always don't want to listen to science. Having lots of information about people is one of the best ways for them to know what they need to do to manipulate and control everyone. I get that to go to Africa, but at the end of the day, at what cost? Like, to control everyone. And then how are they living their life without people? Because at some point, they will eat each other. So it kind of like, I get it, but it doesn't make sense. Live your life and let me live mine. Centers via solar. The elite are building underground bunkers and building cities in the event of nuclear war. That's what the water is for. If you say the big short at the end of the movie, this is why we suffer from anxiety. I'm not going to sit around worrying about something I can do nothing about. You'll go crazy doing that. But, what you can do is call them out and let them know that we see you. You know what I'm saying? It's easy. It's harder to move when all eyes are on you. The issue is what is the reason for the data centers. Don't help them efficiently surveil us over our lives. Our lives are going to be totally controlled through monitoring. Yeah. I feel like we're already there. It feels like we woke up one day, they've been working behind the scenes. It feels like we are already there. And I feel like that's part of the anxiety because, it's happening so fast. And you're like, so now what do we do? And yeah, vote. But I feel like each individual, they can't stop what's already like way beyond in progress. Dr. Barry movie Away from Housing to Water. The reason BlackRock is buying up as much as they can isn't for real estate, it's for water rights. They said the same thing on secession. They did that too, like a little bit. They touched on a little bit on Yellowstone, like how when they were fighting and then they were, whoever controls the water, wins the game. It's not a theory. I woke up late, so I'm now making breakfast. Okay, send it over. Jaguar, keep me up on all these videos. The guy who makes bunkers. I love conspiracy theories and things that, stories that we don't really, That's why I miss Jesse. Jesse, I'm a former Navy SEAL. We going along in our day-to-day life and we finding out about these things and we're like, what the heck? Customers include the Kardashians and the Tate brothers. Oh, them Kardashians, child, they don't give a damn. They over there with robots and what's the best way to send a video? Let me think about that. Because I know you can't necessarily. I'll put an email. I'll attach an email to my information and see if you can do it that way. See if we can do it that way. Or maybe Instant Messenger sometimes will let you. So yeah, let me figure that out. When you buy a piece of land, you own the land all the way down to the core of the earth, which includes the water, oil, and natural gas, as well as any of the elements, including natural resources. Let me tell you a little story about a man named Jed. Yeah. Black gold, Texas tea. I guess the best thing we can do for ourselves is stay informed. And when we're going to city council meetings or even just as local, in your local residential meetings, be bringing that up to your local congressman. That's where it starts. Bring it up to your local congressman. Put pressure on them. You know what I'm saying? Your representatives, put pressure on them to, at the very least, because they're not going anywhere, at the very least, they can put pressure on them to use other resources besides water. There's a reason all of the prepper channels are telling people to stock up on water. Yeah, when only a few people own the rights to access the things will be unbearable. There's only so much stocking up you can do. You know what I'm saying? On that note, like, we would have to have our own bunkers to put things. You know, you talking about people that own land, just for them to come tell you, you got to move because we need to use this land for this data center, and you stuck. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. But yeah, I guess, we're going to have to be bringing this subject up in our local council meetings and things, that affect us directly, and put pressure on them, like I said, to take it to the Senate. It sucks when you lose a family member. I can't imagine as a mother losing a child. And this lady lost her son, and now she is being harassed. According to family attorney Ben Crump, Christine Wells Walmsley, a family nurse practitioner, has been notified that the Mississippi Board of Nursing opened a professional misconduct investigation based on an anonymous complaint. That if you should not be able to open up nothing anonymously, especially if it's just frivolously like this. It's like an attack on her for what? Crump says Walmsley has practiced for years without any prior complaints before this matter. From a licensing and regulatory standpoint, healthcare professionals are governed by strict oversight boards that investigate complaints to determine whether a license holder violated professional standards or ethics. An investigation is a regulatory review, not a finding of misconduct. And disciplinary action can only occur if the board determines a violation occurred after this review process. They know that they're probably not going to find anything, but that's going to go on her record that she was, investigated. What do y'all think? Should anonymous complaints be enough to trigger license investigations? I do not. I think if you're going to do an investigation, then everybody, you have the right to know, I feel like, who has a problem with you. Good morning, T. I know T is over there, administrative and the school system, and you know how that is. People trying to get their things together. Jaguar, I believe, sent me this the other day. And this lady, she breaking it down as to what happened with these boys. I feel like, it's people like this that got to keep on. And it sucks that they're taking it out on his mother because she wants to know what happened to her son. Wild.
Timeline, I know how they mess with the GPS. I figured it all out. I figured out the lies that are based in truth. I figured it all out, and I've got proof. But stick with me because it's going to be a long video, y'all. I found a 15-page Marine Patrol report that had lots of little details that prove that the boys had been lying. So I've already shown how at 1:30 in the morning, the initial Lieutenant Odom with the Jackson County Sheriff's Office said that his deputies spoke with several of the friends who traveled to the island on the vessel with Nolan. And they said that he left in the company of an unknown female and that he chose to remain on the island.
So what was the next step? Did you guys ever engage with police? Or? Yeah, so the first time I talked to police was July 7th. I talked to the lead investigator and I told him the whole story top to bottom. Diary across every T. I told them everything I knew, every little detail.
Well, that's a lie now, isn't it, Warren? Because you talked to them at 1:30 in the morning that night. I mean, did you just forget to tell the cops about Katie? Because it's not like you didn't know it was her or you didn't know how to get in contact with her.
The girl he was with, Katie, had texted somebody that she heard people yelling, correct, yelling. Yeah, and I have a picture of that. She texted somebody. And the next day, everybody's texting Katie, because she was obviously seeing Nolan the whole day at the island. Katie sent a message to my buddy the next day and said, this last I saw him, he's really sweet. But she also mentioned that the last time she saw Nolan was when my buddy was yelling at him to get on the boat.
But Katie says that she assumed that she went on the boat after y'all were yelling at him. And let's not forget that the last time you saw him was 3.
Well, the last time I saw Nolan was 3 o'clock. And Nolan was cradling a girl in his arms.
And yet for some reason around noon, the name of another girl who hadn't even seen Nolan in a year was given to the patrol to go interview, saying that she was with that group, not Katie. They also gave the name of a couple of other friends who they weren't able to get in contact with. And despite having a picture of a text message from Katie, funny how you didn't share that with Officer Tatum. Probably could have cleared up some stuff real quick, right? Now let's get to the data. Now, at about 1:30 on July 5th, they were doing a flight of drones based on the relation of the last known anchor position of the Atkinson vessel, which I have documented right here. 4:30, Officer Strickland contacted Jennifer Pyrone, who was Wyatt's mother, who told them that he had already spoken to officers earlier in that day, but they were happy to cooperate with any investigation. And she let this officer take a picture of the GPS. Officer Strickland observed the track line showing Pyrone's vessel location on Horn Island, then gave coordinates. I'm going to need you to remember this exact phrasing. It's going to be important later on. Now, this was the GPS coordinates from the picture that the officer took, meaning that these coordinates had to be a different one that was verbally given over the phone by Wyatt. And you'll notice they're quite different. Now, you'll notice that this incident report says the involved entities are Bart Edmington and Jerry Atkinson, not Wyatt. Even though Wyatt is 18, he should be on this report. And you can argue that they were just giving the names of the people that owned the boats, but somehow I doubt that 21-year-old Bart owns that boat. You'll notice on this report that 2 different pieces of GPS evidence were collected. So now we're going to go to the July 8th report where they came and they took those GPS coordinates from both the Atkinson boat and Bart's boat. Yellow is Bart, blue is the grandfather Jerry. You know, the same Jerry that called and canceled the sea tow as the sea tow phone call was being made. Now, mind you, this is 3 days after the police had come and spoken to the mother and gotten the GPS coordinates. Now, Bart had a Germain GPS map chart plotter. Jerry's boat also contained a Germain GPS map chart plotter. Now, I had to look up the difference between waypoints, tracks, and routes. So waypoints mark specific spots. Routes connect them in a planned order, and tracks record your actual path. Now, according to that GPS data, there is no movement from 11 to 4:30, but we know that that's not true. Warren has never been able to logically explain how they ended up so far away from the shore. Because according to him, he said at 3 o'clock, that was the last time he saw Nolan, Bart was trying to yell at him to get on the boat. His brother got into a fight, so he got his brother to come over there. That's when he saw that it was all sinking, because he said this.
There's a lot of people on, so they dragged water in, and eventually, I think over time we were out there for a couple hours, the boat started filling up with water. So I popped the starboard side hatch, and the battery was completely underwater.
Yes, but according to Warren, he had just seen Nolan like neck deep cradling a girl at the boat next to them. So how did they end up in 31 feet of water at the 4 o'clock call? There's an hour in between that. If the battery is submerged, how would they even get away from the sandbar? You can see in the background of this picture, they are far away from people. And yet this GPS is saying that you were stationary the whole time. But why? Especially because we have actual fucking proof right here. We have the coordinates that Wyatt's mom gave them the second time, and the cop took a picture of the GPS. So compare it to the GPS coordinates in which they were trying to get a tow from. But what if I were to tell you that not only does a waypoint need to be physically saved on this exact type of GPS, you have to intentionally say, mark this spot, or else it doesn't automatically save. It records your tracks automatically, but those are just saved coordinates. And it turns out you can actually delete tracks. It's super easy. You just go into the main menu and you delete it off of your data. So why is this GPS data, which is right here, so much further away than what the GPS says it is later? There's no data included in that GPS report that explains them going from here to here, unless someone went in and deleted those tracks, because they probably dropped that waypoint once they anchored, which would explain why Warren said they showed up at 10:30 and the GPS says that they showed up after 11. And so then it wasn't until half an hour after the canceled tow that they dropped another waypoint. And mind you, the exact same GPS was used in both boats, and Wyatt/Jerry's boat has the tracks and routes where Bart's does not. And again, it tracks it automatically. So you have to intentionally delete those tracks. And why did they do that? Well, it turns out Jerry Atkinson just so happens to be the owner of Ocean Marine Group in Ocean Springs and Gulfport, which is literally a boat dealer. So guess who's going to know that information? You already know Grandpa Jerry was in the mix, because the only way that he could have canceled the sea tow before it even started to head out is if Wyatt had called Jerry first and Jerry told him to call for a sea tow and then canceled it for him. Which would explain why he couldn't give any descriptions of where the water was. How high was it? We know that the sea tow did not bring in the boat. In fact, Bart's mother came on Facebook and said that there are pictures from my son's boat of the boat about to be towed, which is clearly who is about ready to tow them here as Wyatt is on the phone. I can tell you 100% that this is not a sinking boat. You can see Bart bringing them in this picture. But Bart was supposedly the one yelling at Nolan to get on the boat, remember? Why would he be yelling at Nolan to get on a boat that's sinking? Unless he was telling Nolan to get on his boat. And Warren accidentally explained what really happened with the engine. Whatever happened with Nolan happened on Bart's boat, allegedly, which is why all of Bart's information was deleted. So here's what happened. Both this one and this one confirmed that there was a fight that broke out on the beach. Started out with him, ended up with Warren's little brother. His uncle says, we gotta go. They hop on a boat and they leave. He grabs his drunk younger brother and says, we're getting out of here too. 3 o'clock. This whole caravan is trying to get the hell out of there because they're drunk and fighting. Wyatt's boat was in such a hurry that they couldn't figure out how to put the freaking trim down, which caused the motor to overheat, quickly stranded them, and Bart had to come help them. The time that Bart shows up, something has happened between him and Nolan. They're all distracted trying to fix the bilge pump because it didn't trim down. The waves were crashing over the boat and into the bilge pump, short-circuiting it. During this, some people have figured out that Nolan is gone. Other people just think that he's passed out or something, which is why Wyatt calls his grandfather to figure out what the F to do. And as the phone call is being made, more people are figuring out something's wrong with Nolan. That's why they didn't start moving again for 30 minutes. They were coming up with a plan and figuring out how to make it work. We've run out of time, but don't worry, I'm doing a follow-up to this video with more details, more information. And if you like my work, be sure to show your support in my bio. I figured it out.
Good grief. She been studying this situation. You said definitely not. There's so many malicious and ruthless people who do anything to undermine or destroy someone who's doing positive things or who's an innocent victim. Yeah, you talking about his mother and how people are out here. This is a lot of information to process. These people, again, like, are so connected. Like when you can call down, it's like a freaking movie on Netflix. You can call down to the boat tow to interfere, to have the people come erase the footage, and Bart's boat, doesn't have no GPS. She spent a lot of time. Like, I feel like she's over here, like, what's her name? Agatha Christie. Oh my goodness. She over here with Post-it notes and everything, figuring it out. I watched this documentary on Netflix called The Idaho Murders, and it was about these kids in Idaho who somebody came in their house. Did you see the story about the sound engineer? The lady they trying to say, pull up her record and all of that. Anyway, I watched this documentary about these Idaho murders, and the way they put so much energy into finding out who did this. They got like video footage from the car, the DoorDash driver. They got video footage from football game over to DNA from the suspect. It was like so much investigation. They were determined to find this random person who came in and unalived these kids, and not over here. They doing more work to seems like protect these children, on what could have been an accident. You know what I'm saying? Sounds like just the way people were intoxicated and fighting. You know what I'm saying? But I think there was some talk about harming Nolan for those boys to join the good old boys club. It's the way they were raised. It may have started out as talk that happened without proper planning, or it could have just been an accident. You know what I'm saying? And they're trying to cover it up. And the more they cover it up, the worse they making it seem. She's almost as thorough as Tisa tells. She is very thorough. I was like, oh my goodness. Is she going fast? I would be curious to see, like, she better be careful. She coming up with too much information. She got things highlighted, in a way like we could all understand. Okay, the yellow, got it. The blue, this is them. Okay, understand. Whew, I'll be interested to see what she comes up with next. Whew. Yeah, they can investigate and get information when they want to, but seems like this is an uninvestigation. They trying to make sure, and the more they talk, they think they so smart. And the more they talk, the more we found out. If they just shut the hell up, it's too late now. Anyway, we're going to move away from that. Ne-Yo is out here doing the same thing Chris Brown was doing. Singer Ne-Yo is facing a lawsuit after a delivery driver allegedly was attacked by one of his dogs while dropping off a package in his Georgia home. According to TMZ, Dominique Bridget claims she was lawfully delivering a package to the Grammy Award-winning singer's residence around July 12, 2025, when a dog on the property allegedly attacked her. Not allegedly. I mean, did the lady get attacked by a dog on his property? She says the incident left her with severe bodily injury, pain, and shock and distress. I'm sure it did. Bridget alleges she's already incurred $9,000 in medical expenses related to the alleged attack. In the suit, she claims Neo is legally responsible for her injuries and seeking reimbursement for those medical costs in addition to other damages. I don't know why people don't just say, hey, this thing happened and I want to be completely responsible for your medical damages. Why is someone with money like Neo hibbling and bibbling over $9,000? Give that lady some, pay her bills and give her some pain and suffering. Your dog attacked her, allegedly. The lawsuit comes just weeks after fellow R&B star Chris Brown was ordered to pay nearly $13 million in separate dog attack case involving his former housekeeper. Brown has since filed paperwork seeking a new trial. Pay the people. If he 9,000 in, he messing around, he gonna be 13 million just like Chris Brown. At the time of the publication, Neo had not publicly responded to the allegations. TMZ reported it reached out to the singer for comment, but has not yet received a response. He should keep his mouth shut and settle this situation. As with all newly filed lawsuits, the allegations have not been proven in court. She's seen that Chris Brown settlement and decided to sue. Maybe. I mean, at the end of the day, if your dog attacks somebody, then you should absolutely be responsible for it. You said, let's see. The Idaho Netflix has me stuck at the kids not calling the police. 8 hours later, they didn't call the police. That's weird. Again, this is like, that's what made me think of Nolan, because I'm like, and I mean, in the Netflix special, we found out that, there was an actual assailant, but maybe they were like, stuck up in there. I feel like if they had called 911, maybe somebody, the results was they wouldn't have been able to save them, but still, that's wild. But you mean they're in shock, I guess. I don't know. They didn't call the police until much later. And that had me convinced it was going to be one of them for sure. You said this is your theory. I think this has something to do with the white girl Nolan was talking to. I think somebody got pissed off and a physical altercation happened and Nolan died. I feel the same way, Jaguar. Those, like I said, it may not have been something, Bart is this football player and, they doing a whole lot to keep Bart's name out of it. But at the end of the day, what is that, manslaughter? Like, y'all are, it's just diabolical to me that, and I guess, like we talked about before, this is Mississippi. It's just like, how these kids are raised to believe, don't worry about it, my people gonna handle it. And it looks like that's what they're trying to do. Yes, that Neo is something else. You said, I don't think the other person in the altercation was trying to unalive Nolan, which is why the audio that has people saying, you unalived him. Is he dead? Are you sure he's dead? Yeah, I think it was a lot of panicking going on. At the end of the day, whatever happened, if they would have come back and said what happened, if it was an altercation or, whatever it is, they were not going to be in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Especially not based on, their very powerful parents and, wealthy people. But at least his mother would know what happened. I think that's haunting, like to think that, and I'm quite sure, especially with the narrative being, don't be the only, don't stop sending your kids out there all by themselves. Like we've all said it and I still believe it, but I think she's probably carrying a little bit of guilt. And at the end of the day, now it's a cover up. So now they should pay for whatever it is they did. It started out as an accident, but it's a whole lot of covering up going on over here. He should feel the obligation to take care of it. Hopefully he has insurance. I don't know why, and took place in 2025. I don't know why he didn't just step up, pay the lady's medical expenses, and pay her for some pain and suffering. And if he would have settled it, it would be over. Chris Brown too. Chris Brown left the lady and then had the people call 911. Like, it's at your house. White people are strange creatures. The way they respond to tragedy is weird. And also, like, I feel like because Nolan is black, they automatically feel like it's just a black kid. You know what I'm saying? Maybe had he not been black, like many people have said, the whole reaction, if it had been any one of those other friends, I don't think it would have went that way. They would have been like, Bart, you did a thing. We're telling on you. You said you might be right because the father was with them on the boat. He didn't like seeing Nolan with that white girl, so he came up with a sloppy plan. Oh my. That's a different theory. These are all alleged. You said no, they would have if person A attacks person B because person A was just talking to someone and not an immediate threat to person B can be charged with murder or manslaughter. Child, you know better than I do. I'm just over here running my mouth and speculating based on fragments of things that I remember. At the end of the day, like I said, the cover-up has become the crime. If Nolan had been a blonde girl in Idaho, we would have known all the way down to, what he ate before it happened. Wendy Williams documentaries reportedly in the works at Peacock and Netflix in separate projects. Wendy Williams' life story may soon be heading back to the small screen. Do we need any more? I feel like I'm good. I don't know why, I'm good. According to new reports from the U.S. Sun, both Peacock and Netflix are reportedly developing separate documentary projects centered on the former daytime talk show host. Sources told the outlet that the two streaming platforms are each working on their own productions and are hoping to be the first to release their version of Wendy's story. This is just as bad as Whitney Houston. Wendy was making documentaries and stories before she, got sick. The source claimed Peacock's project is being spearheaded by Susan Bass, Wendy's longtime executive producer on the Susan, not Susan behind the camera. Now she over here trying to make money off of Wendy's situation. Susan, come to the front, please. Wendy's longtime executive producer on the Wendy Williams show, The Insider alleged that Bass initially planned to involve Wendy in the documentary, but claimed the television personality is now too ill to participate. However, another source familiar with the projects disputes that account, telling the outlet Wendy was never expected to appear in a documentary. Neither Peacock nor Netflix has commented on the report. Ask Wendy. She's still here. We could go ask her. She's not that out of it. Ask Wendy what she feel about her good friend Susan, the producer, making a documentary. Ask her. The reported project comes as Wendy remains under court-appointed guardianship overseen by Sabina Morrissey. In recent years, Wendy has publicly fought to regain control over her life and finances while maintaining that she's capable of making her own decisions. I don't know about that, but I don't know that this executor or whatever you call her. News of the alleged documentary also follows the controversy surrounding Lifetime's 2024 docuseries, Where is Wendy Williams? That was a lot. The project sparked widespread backlash after it showed intimate moments from Wendy's health struggles. Morrissey later filed a lawsuit. Morrissey is the one that got called out in that documentary. It didn't really make Wendy look so bad because we just seen it when Wendy was struggling with her health. And we wonder if Morrissey is the reason. What are they putting in her food? We want her out of there. Morrissey later filed a lawsuit in an attempt to hold those involved accountable, though the case was reportedly dismissed last month. Yeah. As of now, neither streaming platform has officially announced a release date or confirmed either the documentary is moving forward. Somebody said I'm gonna watch Suzanne's version because I know it will be done respectfully. She can still include Wendy as far as I'm concerned. Um, oh my goodness, it got ugly over here. Please leave Wendy alone. Can we get thousands of documentaries about Joan Rivers? Did we get any? I don't remember any. I don't give a hoot nanny about Bigfoot. Say it how you really mean it, Jaguar. Say it how you really mean it. Not surprised that it's Susan. She always gave me coat rider vibes. All I'm saying is, Susan, you might want to find your way down to that facility that they have Wendy in and have a conversation with her. Joan Rivers' death should be truly investigated. I'm here for it. I am here for it because, yeah, did we get any? If we need a documentary on Joan, I know that's a story. Where is Melissa? We ain't seen her in a long time either. Hopefully Wendy isn't being exploited and will get the money and help she needs to regain control over her life. I'm not sure why she hasn't. I don't think Wendy is going to get that much better. I think Wendy is a state just based on the amount of drugs and alcohol that she's used over the years. I think, she is in a state of onset dementia of some kind. She has lucid moments. My mother had dementia. She would be perfectly fine in moments and then not in others. And dementia is such a slow, long process that it can go on for years. Wendy is clearly once she fell over in that Statue of Liberty costume, she ain't really never been the same since then. And, along with other health issues. Long-term drug and alcohol abuse does a number on your body, but I don't know that we need another documentary. The way Barbara Walters and Joan Rivers are keeping their mother stories locked should be studied. You think, what's your name? Barbara Walters? That's another one. That's another documentary that, why can't we get that? Because then people didn't lose conservatorship over their lives. All I know is Joan said Obama was gay and Michelle was trans. And then a couple of weeks later, she died during a routine. Maybe that was karma, High Vibe. Maybe that was just karma for her, running her mouth and also being 80 and still keep going under the knife. Yeah, those are two documentaries I wouldn't mind seeing. I don't need to really see, but Wendy's still here. We already know what happened. We saw all the story, even the one that she had control of, from her stories down to the radio and everything. We've seen it. We've seen the story of Wendy, and now she's in a conservatorship. So, unless you're going to tell that story about how these people are holding her hostage and taking control of her money, you know what I'm saying? That's a story we haven't heard. But we know Wendy's story. Let's get on to somebody else. Speaking of somebody else, child, we're going to end with this one today. Wendy and Eddie Osefo's fraud trial is officially set. Here's the evidence, the timeline, and what comes next. So the couple will face a joint trial in January 2027. Did they do Teresa and them that way? If they have to go to jail, I hope they get the same deal how Teresa and Joe got, where the one gets to go and then the other one has to go. We don't know how much time they're facing as prosecutors prepare to present financial records, retail information, social media posts, and property recovered from their home. This has to be the world's stupidest crime. I don't know. I hate it, but this is what Wendy, she was over there at the girls trip, ultimate girls trip party. and they caught her and asked her, like, what's going to happen with the season since you're still dealing with, trial things. So this is what Wendy had to say.
20 years of Housewives. How has this show changed your life?
How has the show not changed my life? I think that's a fair question. I had my daughter who just turned 7, and she was 3 months when I started the show. So just the mere fact I'm able to see my children grow up through the screen has been such a blessing, and I've absolutely enjoyed it. It's been its highs of highs and its lows of lows, but through it all, it's been amazing.
But it's high quality home video. I love that. So season 10 of Potomac, there was a bit of a rough at the end.
And so there was a narrative that emerged after the charges that, she was trying to keep up, and this is what she did in order to do that. How do you respond to that?
I don't respond. The people can have their narrative. That's on them.
It was reported that you have 67 credit cards under your name with multiple aliases.
And how will we see that play out on season 11?
I think the beauty of Housewives, especially now that we're going into the 20th season, is you guys are able to see us in our highs and in our not so highs. And so in true Housewives fashion, you guys will see the intricacies of all of that. And I just can only be Wendy, and that's what I am this season.
I absolutely love that. And how was it having Karen back this season after her pause? Let's say that's what she paused. After her pause, how was it having her back?
It was really good having Karen back. Karen is part of the fabric of Real Housewives of Potomac, and it was so good to see her and see this amazing version of her. And I hope that you guys will enjoy seeing her as well.
I guess, child, she over here singing Karen's praises. Go to jail or Sepho stop committing fraud. You want her to go to jail? I don't want her to go to jail. I just don't know why they had to do something so stupid. Why can't we learn how Barbara Walters climbed the ladder and to get her high rank? We can, though, if they do the documentary. If they do the documentary, I guess, that's what we need. We need to know the real tea with Barbara Walters. Yeah, that's all I got, y'all. I don't want to see Wendy and Happy Eddie go to jail. Just, let them just pay their fine. You know what I'm saying? And they're sorry. They didn't mean it. I'm going to go speak on their behalf. Oh my God. Y'all have a good weekend. Don't forget to like the video. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Yes, just drink your water, child, while we still got it. All right, y'all. See you when I see you. Bye, y'all.